Hey everybody, welcome to my favorite shitty movie. I'm so very excited about tonight. Our guest artist Cheryl Whited picked They Live, and I feel like I've been waiting for way more than 200 episodes at this point for someone to pick They Live. And here I am. I've got my I'm all out of bubblegum shirt on, and my They Live re-release, theatrical re-release poster. This is one of my absolute favorite movies. I'm a huge John Carpenter guy. And this is, I remember when I first saw this movie in the theater, and I had to drive an hour away from my hometown in Massachusetts to see it because it was the only place it was playing. And I brought with me my only high school girlfriend of the entire 4 years. It was a 3-month relationship. It was delightful. And part of the relationship was us going to see They Live together an hour out of town. I loved it. I couldn't, I every now and then you sit down in a theater in a movie, and the movie delights you to a degree that makes you absolutely childlike. And They Live did that for me. I was still in high school, so sort of childlike anyway, but it made me feel like I did when I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark when I was, 9 years old. And it blew my mind. I just loved it. And it's very much, so we have to consider, because this is my favorite shitty movie, and what's shitty about it is at the time there was a lot of snobbery about it. This is a ridiculous movie kind of thing in the papers and the general audiences and all that stuff. And I understand that, but to me, it's just kind of a perfect B movie. But before I go on any further, I want to bring on tonight. Tracy was unavailable, but she still very thankfully provided us with stills from the movie to show during our show. But she's in a business meeting, and it's going too long. So luckily, saving my ass is my special co-host, Mark Haynes. He's been on the show before. He's a treasure for us at My Favorite Shitty Movie. He's a producer. He's genius. And one day he's going to make me a star. Mark Haynes, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. Todd, you're from your lips to the green light's ears. So cheers. Thanks for having me on.
I just wanted to point out John Hillary Shepard's comment. Wow, I'm gay and I dated more girls in high school. Yes, you're correct, John. You're correct. It's weird how it works.
On another podcast, I'd have a story with that one, but I do have a story with that
one. Most of the girls I dated early in college just like outed themselves as lesbians just after dating me. So yeah, my young dating history is weird. Mark, They Live. You just saw this.
I did. I have known about this movie since it came out. I have been a Carpenter fan forever. This one just kept slipping off the list because I would be like, I would watch, The Thing and the Philadelphia Experiment and just all the kinds of things that Carpenter was cranking out. And, this one I never seemed to make it up to this one, Escape from New York. Yeah. There was a rotation of films that now this one is firmly embedded in, because this afternoon, today was like many days recently in the entertainment business. Sucked. But as far as that goes, or at least recently in the entertainment business, unless you're George Clooney, of course, and then every day is awesome. But
it's great, and you can interfere in elections.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I appreciate the fact that he can fart in an envelope and send it to his agency and get $150 million to start but that's okay. That's George. I'm not going to say he
Yeah,
hasn't
no,
put
let's not
any
get
of
down
that
on
stuff.
George.
And
He's
given the
our
opportunity,
friend. He's
given
on
the
our
opportunity
side.
to be hired by him, I would 100%, 120% be there like that.
Oh,
All
but
of that,
would you, like, if Mel Gibson hired you, would you go?
that's a tough one because right now my financial situation would probably say I have to.
I like, honestly, I thought about this the other day because I was watching the movie Flight Risk, which the guy who did who was the director of photography on a no budget movie I was in called Fuzz Track City is the DP on Flight Risk. So I watched it, and like, as I was watching it, I thought about all those things. I was like, and my friend is the DP. He's a Christian conservative, but he's also not, like, at least in conversations I've had, not necessarily pro-Trump. But I just wonder how that is. Like, you take the money from this guy who's this thing. I don't know. I mean, I would right now because there's nothing going on.
Yeah, in the scheme of the greater good, I would probably have to determine what I stood to make on the movie versus what I would stand to make from hidden camera footage that makes its way to TMZ if Mel lose it on the set,
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if you insert yourself as sort of an interloper
like,
spy,
Mel's going off on somebody, we got one of these.
Look at
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you make something of it, like, you take the money from the Nazi and you, like, expose him as being a Nazi yet again, then at least you can say you did something good with it.
Yeah, well, that's how I would try to justify it in my mind. But as far as this movie goes, it did take me back to a time where, this stuff, was way in the future, and like our government at that point in time, even as odd as it was in the 80s, government should be in the background, my opinion. A little side.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and it's out front and center every day. Look at me approach to governing. I'm just like, no, I have other things to worry about.
Yeah, I don't want to think that I voted for somebody who I didn't want to have to think about.
Yeah, exactly.
For him.
Yeah, I just want to know you're over there and you're doing the best you can. Hopefully you're doing okay, that kind of thing. But
you're not going to do it perfect. You're not going to do it the way I want to, but you're the closest I can get.
Right. But this movie though really kind of like, it kind of puts things into perspective where it's like, okay, this is such a thinly veiled commentary on consumer culture at the time.
Yeah, it's specifically the 80s. I mean, it was a takedown of the 80s and what we sort of were into, what we were worshiping, and what we were doing with our money. And just the idea that like, none of it was our choice.
Right.
But it was under the surface back then. And now it just feels like it's not. It's just the government's literally just telling us what to think.
Yeah.
It's not Nancy Reagan's Just Say No campaign. It's the Just Say No campaign, but you don't have a choice.
I mean, I think, like you said, not to get like too far down the political rabbit hole, because that could be a whole nother show by itself.
Yeah. For this movie, yes.
But yeah, for the purposes of this thing, it really is interesting where you look at a movie like They Live and you think, at the time, if you were aware of kind of the yuppie / consumer culture that was rising up, and you had the baby boomers were talking about like how shallow everyone was, you thought it felt like at some point this is a wave that's going to recede. And then when you watch that movie in 2025, it didn't.
Yeah.
The water never receded. It just kept doubling down and doubling down. And yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like, yeah,
that's a Deep Impact reference, I think.
Yeah. Well, that was if Tracy was here, she could comment on Morgan Freeman being the president, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
yeah,
She has before. We've
yeah.
touched on that more than once. Please, Mark, why
Yes,
Cheryl is your guest,
yes.
so you give her the introduction she deserves because I'll fail.
Well, my friend Cheryl and I, we met working at a company called Diamond Comic Distributors, which is still kind of on, it's still on life support. It's in the process of a kind of a reorganization sale type structure. But what Diamond is known for, as being the largest, or was the largest distributor for many years, the largest distributor of English language comic books, toys, action figures, and pop culture merchandise. So there's a certain aspect to working there where if you like this stuff, like exactly what we're talking about, movies, comics, TV, whatever, you know, it's an entertainment adjacent job. It's a distributor. They
Right.
could be anything in those boxes, but Diamond had the unique position of distributing or marketing its materials, marketing its products to the end consumer. But these were people they couldn't sell to. Diamond sold specifically to your small mom and pop comic book retail stores around the country, which at the time were about 2,000, 3,000 stores. And you know, she and I met because I was the head of the website development team, doing one of the first business to business type sites, at least for that company. And Cheryl was the customer service technical support representative. There's a big customer service department where people would call if there's damages with their products, or problems in shipping or billing or what have you. Cheryl dealt specifically with problems regarding the websites that I was developing. And so we would talk every day together. I mean, you know, to say this is like the concept of the work wife was probably, that's where we were at.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And you know, we both haven't worked there in a number of years, but we still talk about it because there were so many things that just didn't make sense. But you know, you were able to really kind of, you know, be nerds who learned something, you know, through that job. And just aside from the fact that she likes some amazing movies, she's an incredibly talented artist in her own right. And
Yeah,
you
she's a
know,
full-time artist, and she does
yes, yeah, fiber art, you know, which
fiber art and
you know, in
quilting.
addition, it's like, and you know, a substantial kind of cosplay, which is really big, obviously, in comic book and movie and sci-fi conventions and stuff these days. And,
Oh, she designs cosplay.
I don't. I think she has designed cosplay, but she sells like material, I think, and merch. She'll tell
That's
us, I'm
cool.
sure, a little bit about
All right.
it. But yeah, and I just said, you know, like who else can we have on? Like I'm going through actually, you know, my old colleagues. We had Marty Grosser on last year at one point. He was the editor, is the editor of the previews catalog, which has all this stuff in it every month. And it was like, who do I know that loves movies, gets really good movie references, and has seen this stuff and is fun to talk to? And that's when I thought of Cheryl.
Well, here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Cheryl.
Hello.
Welcome, Cheryl. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for being on the show, because
Yeah,
we're
thank you for having me.
simpatico. We're simpatico. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and you love it, and I can't wait to hear you talk about it. I can't wait. But as we do with new guests, we always ask this question, and try to figure it in relation to what they live is. What is it for you? What defines a great shitty movie for you? What does that mean?
Wow. Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate this. This has been a fun a fun dive back into this movie after not seeing it for a while, which was cool.
Oh, how long has it been?
I want to say that I saw it sometime last year. I have a 13-year-old, and we're trying to like introduce him to some of these, and so
Good parenting.
And so you know, he doesn't quite get them like we do, but you know, we try. And you know, we played, like, right now I think his favorite old movie is RoboCop. the
There you go.
original.
That's
And
great. That's a win
yeah,
for you. as
he
a
loves it. I couldn't believe that he really, out of all the ones we watched last summer, that was his favorite. But I think what I love about a shitty movie is that everybody knows it's kind of bad, but there's this subtext that I think either you understand or at least you get, and everybody else who thinks that way, they also get it. Like, we can meet on the fact that they're like, we get that subtext. And that's, I think, why a movie like They Live is such a cult classic after, I mean, how many
It's
years now?
like what you're saying about great bad movies is they're communal,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah,
that
and I mean, like, if you just pick like a random person off the street and you say, what do you think of They Live, they're probably going to tell you, oh, that's such a terrible movie, and then you'll get that group of people that they're like, they get it. They're like, oh no, what a classic. It's so deep. And you don't think of these movies being that deep, but They Live is pretty deep.
it is deep? And I like the weird thing is about this movie. I mean, I think the sort of famous / infamous sequence in this is the put on the glasses fight scene,
Yes.
which runs for I think just under 7 minutes of a 90-minute movie, which is a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
to spend watching two giant guys just fucking punch each other.
Well,
It-
yeah,
it's
and I mean, like, it's
delightful.
been parodied, but it's also considered one of the top fight scenes of all time.
I would, yeah, absolutely. And people make jokes about it. And I remember seeing it and with my date, because I'm not gay. I was not gay in high school. I had a lady date. John. But like we both there were so many takes to each other that we were doing like, how long is this? Why is this still going? It was like a brilliantly comic moment within this very dark sci-fi kind of apocalyptic movie. I love it. The fight scene to me is a highlight, and it's kind of what props this movie up as great, is that it took the time to do this.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, Roddy Piper is this, WWF
right,
wrestler.
WWF at the time, yeah.
Yeah,
And he
at the
has
time.
to. He has to fight.
Right, you kind of have to throw that in there to like give him some actual thing to do with his skill set. I just thought that was really,
Okay, I just saw this 2 hours ago, so I would say, like, I'm now trying to remember, because I remember this scene, and I remember when they get to the alley and he's trying to get him to try the glasses on, and I'm like, well, I have to go to the bathroom, but I'll wait because this fight's not going to last very long.
Oh,
That's like perfect.
This is the era of streaming where you can hit pause, you can do all this stuff, and I'm 55 years old, so like when I say I can wait, that does not mean I can wait, right? You're
gonna get a kidney stone, Jesus.
But I mean, and I remember, like, I'm like, what the? They're still, and it's just like, holy shit.
I think it's one of the funniest things. It's definitely the funniest thing John Carpenter ever did. And yes, I've seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Are there any other fist fights through the film that he has with anyone? Because I don't recall them being
mostly he punches some people with the butt of a gun a couple times.
Right. But there's no kind of like,
no, it's just convinced. But you can dig deep. You can dig deep and find the thematic elements of that scene in
Yeah.
what he's doing. It's two
Yeah.
people who are on the same side, who are politically not opposed,
Right.
but are opposed to each other's energy. So they have to fight. It's like the Democratic Party.
I was
It
going to say
has to fight.
that's deep.
AOC and Bernie need to get in an actual rumble with Harris and
So you're saying
whoever
you're
else.
saying Nada and Frank are like Bernie Sanders and Cory Booker.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Somebody out there has better
perfect.
AI skills than I needs to do their heads on that fight.
Yeah,
Right.
it's perfect too, because Cory Booker he's the centrist who will, die for his centrism, but when he's confronted about it, he's like, fuck off. I have a job. I need to keep my job.
He says that in the movie. Frank says that he's walking a white line, and then Nada says, the white line's in the middle of the road, and that's the worst place to be, or that's that's the worst place to drive. Yeah.
The quotes don't stop in this movie. It's almost like
That's
Carpenter wrote this thinking, I'm gonna make as many quips as I possibly can. It's gonna be mostly quips, and it's brilliant because of it. It's so 80s, but so brilliant.
Well, and this of course is like right at the time where George Bush the 41 wins. So we've got two terms of Reagan, and then so this movie fits perfectly in that culture of that world at the time.
Yeah, this movie is basic. Like, it feels almost like it's out of Bill Hicks's comedy brain at the time. I mean, they're like what he was saying in his stand-up and what this movie is saying are simpatico for sure. Cheryl, let's talk through. Tell the people who might not have seen this what happens in this movie. So here's the awesome
it's very
shot.
top level, Cheryl. You don't have to go like bit by bit, but yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I've got stills to get you through the whole narrative, but you can go as slow or as fast as you want. But here's the opening title, which is
and we interrupt
awesome.
A lot. That's fine.
Yeah. We'll get into it.
Okay. Well, yeah. So it opens with train rolling by, and there is our protagonist who actually remains unnamed through the whole movie. You don't actually learn his name until the credits.
I love that by the way. Like,
yeah, there was a certain point, like I actually rewatched it just to see if they say his name anywhere, and they don't. So
it's just Nada. He's Nada. Nothing.
He's Nada. Yeah, and if you know like the deep lore about this movie, there's like a whole thing about that. But anyway, he's
wait. Stop.
Yeah,
I want to know this lore because I don't.
Okay, so essentially, this is a written screenplay, and it's a screenplay by Frank Armitage, which is actually John Carpenter. It's a pen name for John Carpenter, and it's also the name of Keith David's character. So, yeah, and they write this based off of a short story. And it's essentially the protagonist in the short story's name is George Nada. Nada meaning nothing. He's nobody. He's like a nothing guy, right? He has nothing. He is nothing. And he ends up being the hero. So that's the lore, I guess, behind
it's
writing this.
Lore. I just love that he has no name. I mean, The Man with No Name is a trilogy, but I mean, this guy has no name, and they call him Nada. He's nothing. Everything you're saying is part of why I love this movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, like, he's like a hobo. He just rolls in on the train with his backpack, and he's walking through this city. He's encountering, like, the other people of the city, and they're just the working folk. He's just kind of making his way, and he goes to essentially like a job office, or
Yeah.
a
Unemployment
career
office.
Employment
center.
agency, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like sits down with the lady that I think inspires the Beetlejuice lady. She's like, I got nothing for you right
Yeah.
now, and she couldn't look more disinterested in him saying that he's from Colorado and he wants, that where he was, all the work was drying up, right? And there was nothing
Right.
for him. So he came here. What do you got? And she's like, nothing. And not even a comeback later. Like
It's not, there's nothing that's changed about unemployment offices since then. It's the same thing.
right.
I don't know if you've ever, I've been on unemployment a bunch of times, and like sometimes they require you to go in person. I'm in Ventura County now, so you have to go in person and like kind of state your case. And that's what they do. They say, you tell them your case, and they go, yeah, I cannot help you.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
and then you might get $10,000 worth of checks over 12 months.
Yeah, I did. Well, I did something similar with it, just an employment agency here, and it was on the phone where, it's 40 minutes into the call, and she's like, well, yeah, I don't really think there's anything for somebody that does what you do. And I was like, could you summarize what I do? She's like, no.
I don't know.
So like, she's like, we deal with mainly like financial auditors and janitors. And I'm like, I would try either one of those. Like, if you give me a chance.
Janitor.
Yeah.
I've been a janitor. My back, though, I'm too old. My back.
Oh my gosh. I was like, but
so he goes.
She nailed it. I'll tell you that, the actress.
Yeah.
She did.
So he goes out of the unemployment office and he sees this, right?
Yeah, so he goes, he sees this preacher. Well, he's wandering the streets at this point, and he's encountering people just kind of mesmerized by televisions, and just people just living on the streets. And he comes across this preacher who's giving like a street sermon, and he's blind.
Like, he's blind, right?
He's blind, yeah. But I don't know that you really know that at this point. He's just kind of shouting, and there's a group of people there listening. And he kind of saunters by, stops, listens for a few minutes, and the preacher's talking about, well, they're over us, they're watching us, and
yeah,
and then the police show up. So he's, our hero, he's out of there. He's like, I don't want none of that. Right. I don't want any trouble.
Yeah.
So he walks away.
He gets his job, right?
Yeah. He goes to a job site, and he basically is like, please, may I have a job? And they're like, sure, this is a union site. And he looks around like, yeah, these all look like union workers. That tracks.
And then the foreman is the famous character actor Norman Alden, who is just like all over the place in 70s and 80s television.
And he's like, yeah, he makes a pal. So of course he's got the whole shirtless digging a ditch part. So you can see that he's a wrestler, right? He's got these muscles, and and he basically befriends a guy who's also on the job site named Frank. And while they're kind of like trying to trust each other as they're walking to what Frank tells him is this like shanty town. Like, hey, there's this place I know where you can get food and a shower. And because, you know, you look homeless, you're carrying all your things with you. So he brings him there. And that's when he's like, what you notice about Nada is that he's very observant. So he's just kind of like taking everything in. He's looking at everything, just kind of checking it all out. And while he's at the shanty town, he's getting like he's making some friends. He's got like this guy Gilbert who, you know, basically says, "Hey man, we can use a guy like you around here." And then
That dude's in all the John Carpenter movies.
yes,
Yeah,
he is.
that's an actor named Peter Jason who just like this was all over the place. Yeah.
And he's fantastic. So, you know, he's like great, this is a great place to stay, but in the meantime, he's kind of like keeping an eye on everything. He's like you know, he's just checking it out. So then
oh, I do have to point out one quick thing here. If you know whether it is you know, relevant or not, but the truck that Peter Jason or Gilbert was driving is Kurt Russell's truck from the movie Overboard. It actually still has the character's name painted on the side. You go by very quickly. It's this really faded blue truck, and it's Kurt Russell's character.
Hilarious.
So I'm just assuming that at some point this movie screams we're doing it on a budget. They do it incredibly well, and they spend their money very wisely on certain things. So it's like,
yes.
I went by it, and I was just.
I always wondered if John Carpenter wanted Kurt Russell for Nada.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a very
I
interesting thing.
don't know. I don't think so. My understanding was that it wasn't, but I also know that he wrote the part for Keith David specifically.
Oh,
okay.
Keith David would have played Nada?
Mm-mm.
No, Keith David was playing with
Keith
Keith
David played Frank. He wrote the role of Frank specifically for Keith David, because Keith David was in The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew that he was like good enough to like go like not be a sidekick, but like, you know,
be sort of a friend foil, which he is in this movie.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying politically before. That's what it's about. It's two people who are on the same side who have different
approaches,
perspectives on what's happening, and then they have to fight for 7 minutes to.
Well, and I think at this point, right, like they established that like Frank's got a family back in Detroit. He's got like, you know, he's here because the steel mills, you know, closed, and they're trying to like figure each other out. And what you learn from Frank at this point is that he's there to get his piece and like bounce. He wants to like, get his money. Yeah, he's not interested in like anything but what is going to serve him. And
they have this whole conversation at this point in the movie, and Nada it says like that's all he's trying to do is make a buck and get to the next level.
Yeah, and he even says like, I believe in the American dream, and I want to, you know, do this thing where you you know, you work hard and you get rewarded.
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's
and it's like you know, and so you get the sense that he's got like this right and wrong morals and things, and you know,
but also like he has like that particular little mini monologue that he has where he says all those things, you know, and then he hasn't encountered the glasses yet. So it's a guy who's just doing what everybody does and believes in what everybody believes in. And then he gets woken up. But before he gets woken up, we see this dude, right?
Yeah. So, like, in the shanty town, there's running electricity and a television, and they're
Cable
kind of all
television.
crowded around it, and they're watching, and then all of a sudden breaks in this like hacker, uh like a different signal, and it's basically like, wake up, you're asleep, they're out there, and people are like, what the heck is this hacker shit?
And
You
it
know?
gives them all headaches when they see it. They're like, this guy's giving
Yeah.
me a headache.
Yeah, and like they establish some other like characters here. Like there's like a drifter guy, and then like a dad and his daughter, and and all these people down on their luck.
The drifter, importantly, is the late Buck Flower, who was also the bum in the Back to the Future movies. He was a guy who played bums, but like like the way they work
him up in this movie, like Act 3, he gets a tuxedo.
Yeah, it's genius. They took him
He
off
gets his blow up.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So then,
yeah, and like at night he notices that, because again, like I said, he's like really observant, so he's really paying attention to everything, and he sees that this church, which is like where all the food and everything comes from, they're playing like or there's a choir practice all the time from this place. And so he's like, what's going on at the church? And so he makes his way over there, and he's decided he's going to check it out. And when he goes in, there's no choir. It's like a recording.
It's a reel-to-reel recorder.
It's like just a recording playing on gigantic speakers.
Even for the time, it was an old school technology.
That's it.
Right? And so they're playing this choir singing to make it sound like there's an actual choir in there, but it's actually like an underground lab. And he is like, I don't know what this is, but he falls over a box or something, and his ass goes through a wall, and he realizes it's like a hidden panel and there's boxes behind it. So he fixes that. And
he makes so much noise, and they edit. I'm sorry to interrupt. They make this. He makes so much noise, and they keep editing the scene like they're going to discover him any minute, but they never do. So I was just like,
right.
Anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
And then like the preacher finds him, like the blind preacher, and that's when you realize the preacher's blind, and he's like, oh, you're a working man, and I'm going to show you the light.
Oh, boy.
And that Nada's not taking that. He's out of there. He's not sticking around for that. So he goes back to the shanty town, and he borrows some kid's binoculars and proceeds to like stake out the church.
Because binoculars are something that most homeless children have.
Right? Like
really expensive.
Really expensive. And they're always seeing these helicopters flying around, and they're just like, what's going on? But this guy is like, he is, and like a whole day and night passes.
Well, what's funny, okay, I just do have to point out here that he's using binoculars. Do we have the shot of him looking at the church that you just set up there? So he's like 20 feet farther back. And he's using the binoculars like no one will see him, or that he has to be like anybody who's load the car over there on the right hand side of that picture is one that they end up loading later, and it's like they could just look over there. Like, what's he looking at with binoculars? Who cares? We're in a hurry, like let's keep packing.
But he finds like when he does do that, Cheryl, he finds the glasses. That's when he he has the box and it has the glasses, right?
Well. Yeah, because they actually then he's watching the place, and then it gets raided, and that's when the shanty town, they like they come in and they burn this church to the ground, and everybody's running, and I mean, they bulldoze this shanty town to the ground. And in the meantime, like, they have found everybody, and they are just beating the living snot out of the preacher and the guy who is the
And there's
Yeah,
something,
against the wall.
hacker.
It's
and there's
so
something really interesting about this section. I'm sorry, Todd, I didn't mean to step.
no, go ahead.
Was just this notion that, you know, the way the police are portrayed in this movie is like it's a movie from the 70s rather than a movie from the 80s, because this is after 8 years of the Reagan Revolution, where it's like, you know, it wasn't quite the adulation for law enforcement that the right kind of promotes today, but there was a definite, you know, in that 8-9 year period from like 1979 to 1988 when this movie came out, there was much more of an acceptance and support of law enforcement than there was in the decade prior. And so when these guys come in and they just start, you know, form a riot line to move through the homeless camp, it just echoes movies from a decade earlier to me anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And so, yeah, so he's like, you know, watching, like, and he's like, this is this is the part that I feel like is where it's funny, but it's like he's just sauntering through all of this. Like, he's not in any hurry.
There's no urgency, and he's like within 6 feet of the cops that are beating these guys in the little alleyway.
And nobody's like even looking at him. They are
Yeah,
so
but I
focused.
mean, like, I like that about it.
Yeah.
Like, he's watching it happen in front of him and not doing anything about it. And I think that's a very realistic reaction. Certainly, like, on a metaphorical basis, that's exactly how America seems to react to this kind of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then he
that
gets-
is like part of the whole subtext, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You're the
But then he gets
innocent
and
bystander, you know.
talk about a great character arc. So he's doing that. All the stuff Mark said he's doing, just like, why the fuck aren't you involving yourself? And then he gets, you know, glasses.
Well,
He
so he
tries
goes
on
back
the
to
run.
the church and he remembers that, you know, his ass went through the wall, and he kicks it down, and surprise, there's a box, and he runs around with this box for a while before he goes to an alley and he rips it open, and he's like kind of upset. He's like,
Yeah.
there's only
He's
these
like, this is what the
stupid
police were
glasses in
after.
here.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of paper and sunglasses.
I
Like,
think
Well, I
he
think
thought
the
that maybe
implication-
there would be drugs inside
Yeah,
because
like
of
because
the
they had the
lab.
laboratory, so he's like, oh, they're drug guys, you know. And well, that, I mean, you know, and honestly, that's actually probably an explanation of why he was just watching what was happening, because he thought those boxes were full of drugs.
yeah,
Right.
Could be,
Right.
could be.
no,
And
that
what was
makes
he
sense.
gonna do? Was he like trying to rescue it to get his score? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, you know, there's like this whole thing that this coulda, woulda, shoulda, but he's kind of like disappointed. So he hides the rest of the box and he takes one pair and then he steps out onto the street and puts them on. And that's when the magic happens.
Boom. Here we go. Come to the Caribbean. Wait, is that really what it says? No.
Yeah, no. So the glasses make you see everything in like monochrome. And of course, anywhere that there is media, it is this landscape of subliminal things that are telling you to obey, consume, marry and reproduce. And I actually went so far as to write down all of because I'm that nerd.
You need to be on this show again.
Give it to us. Give it to us. What are they?
So there's obey, marry, and reproduce, no independent thought, consume, conform, buy, no thought. And this one was interesting. Work 8 hours, sleep 8 hours, play 8 hours. watch TV, sleep, stay asleep, submit, doubt humanity, honor apathy, no ideas, follow, obey authority, surrender, reward indifference, do not question authority, no imagination, obey and conform, and sleep 8 hours. And then when they show money, the money is this is your God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I saw that one. I was like, yep.
That was about right.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. And then while he learns all that stuff, he also sees one of them with the glasses
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
So he's like at this newsstand and he's trying to like absorb everything he's seeing, and he looks up and there's this guy and he is hideous and he's like in shock. He can't believe what he sees, and the guy's kind of sus. He's like, "Hey, what are you looking at, buddy?"
Yeah.
And he's trying to, he doesn't say anything, but he notices that like the worker at the newsstand is a human, right? But this guy is like just buying a newspaper and leaving, and then he stumbles into a grocery, and he realizes they're everywhere. And they're among us and talking to us, and they're just generally interacting, and he bumps into one of the ladies, and this is where he loses it.
With this
Yeah.
this woman that he runs into, I have dubbed the first Karen. The first Karen. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just
Yeah.
gives him a raft of shit.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know, and I mean, I can imagine like the, you know, because she just says, "Excuse me," like in this total, like, you know, like upper crusty middle, like upper class lady, "Excuse me."
Yeah. Yeah. And then he does the whole monologue about when I put these glasses on. When I take them off, you look fine. I put them on, formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde face.
And that's the stuff that we need to write down next. And there is a website, I think, that's just all of his
His
Nada
quotes.
from the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like that part right there, he's like, your head looks like it fell in the cheese dip.
Cheese dip in 1957.
You know, when they all went like this and started talking on the watches, like you saw
Yeah.
that picture,
Yeah.
I'm like,
And it's
Apple
right-
Apple
It's
Watches.
right after that he just walks into a bank to get away from the cops.
And I think
Right.
the building that he stumbles into here is actually the building that Tracy Mercer lives in now. Like
Oh
it's
no
condo-
shit.
Like it's condos. I mean,
Of course
all those
it is.
downtown office buildings are now condos. I'm just kidding. I don't know that that's her building, but it's probably.
So
Well,
this is
yeah.
the most iconic moment of the movie where
Yeah.
he says, "I've come here for two reasons: to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum."
You know, and
Um,
to me, it's like at one point, I have to say at this point, based on everything we've seen from Nada up to this point, that this is way out of character for anything they've established in his background. But
Yes.
the other
No,
shoe
no,
dropping,
but
the other shoe dropping immediately is like, I don't care.
but they
Right.
they actually do a good job. Like later on, like he meets
Meg Foster.
Meg
Meg
Foster,
Yeah.
who's
Holly Thompson.
just amazing.
so-
But
Yeah.
they have the whole conversation where he says he's high from the glasses.
Mhm.
So
Oh, okay,
he's basically, the glasses are like crack or meth or something,
Okay.
which is why he becomes violent. That's sort
Okay.
of, they justify it.
I missed that part.
Well, right. So he's like, you know, right away he's trying to like get away from them, and they must call the cops, and he realizes they can be killed, right? That was like the big establishment with the cops.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the bank, and with surgical precision, this guy shoots only the aliens.
With a shotgun, like into a crowd of people. But
Right?
it's
Yeah,
okay.
like a multi-shot, like a semi-automatic rifle. He's
Yeah,
I
only,
he's
may have to
like,
have like an additional guest star here for a second.
but that's
oh,
oh, hello. The drugs are really good. That's the point. The drugs that he's on, the
yeah. So
sunglasses
he's
drugs
like,
are great.
yeah, and he then is trying to get away. So what he does is he goes and he decides, I guess, to kidnap a woman.
That's what you do. That's,
Right. And he's like, she's weird. She's like, okay, don't hurt me. And he's, trying to like, he's like, take me back to your place. And she's like, I really don't want to do that. And he's like, don't fuck with me. Okay, fine. And so she does. And she takes him back to her apartment. And that whole exchange where he's trying to come off the high of the glasses is really, really awkward.
I do want to point out something about this scene. I don't know if we have the picture. We don't have pictures of how that scene ends, do we?
No, we don't have the pictures of that scene.
All right. So for anybody who may not have seen it, this scene, is this a spoiler? Can I tell people?
Yeah, it's an old ass movie. If people are
okay, yeah, it's
spoiled,
like 1988. If you haven't seen it, like me, I beat you. If you haven't seen it, like, so I'm ahead of you. This like LA driving philosophy right there. I'm in front of you, so it's fine. But at the end of this scene, it's going very smoothly, and then almost out of nowhere, she whacks him over the back of the head with like a vase or something, and knocks him through a plate glass window.
through a window.
Yeah.
Out and down, like she lives in the Hollywood Hills. So if anybody's
She's on
familiar
one of
with
those
the terrain
field
out here,
houses.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a 60-foot drop, and then you go down a
Yeah.
hill that's about this steep. And
Yeah.
to me, that completely sums up dating in Los Angeles. that's how it goes. I'll leave it at that for right now.
Yeah, that's fair. So
Yeah,
then
so, like,
after we get
I gotta
through
give
all
that
that
cat-
stuff, this
I'm
is
gonna
we
step
have
away
to get to
loses
this.
the glasses.
I'm going to step away for 1 second, you guys. I got to get the cat.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. So he
So
loses the
show-
glasses and he's got to go back and get them, but he realizes like the trash can that he dumped them in is being actually emptied by the trash collector. So he has to go like into the actual garbage truck to get the box, and he has to, dig around the cleanest trash box.
There's no garbage. There's no rotting anything. It's
No,
just paper and boxes.
It is the nicest garbage truck known to man, and he basically climbs in and so now he's got like another pair of glasses, and he's got to decide now.
He's got a whole
who
box.
else is he gonna rope into
Right.
this scenario?
So who is it?
It's Frank, and he goes back to the job site, and now he's like a pariah because he's on the national news as like this guy who killed a bunch of people.
He's a terrorist now.
Yeah,
He's a terrorist.
so he goes back to the job site, and Frank is like, get out of here, man. Like, nobody wants to see you. And basically he goes into an alleyway, and Frank brings him some money and is trying to get him to go into hiding. And that's when he says, you got to put on these glasses. Put on these glasses or start eating that trash can.
Yeah. And it's great.
Which is like the best line to start a fight.
And it takes a good 7 minutes in the movie, but in the end, all it accomplishes is what you knew would have to happen for the narrative to move forward. But I love that they took the time to have them fight for that long, so Keith David could put on the glasses.
Well,
And
and
then-
this is a killer fight. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
is
good.
definitely showing off all of Roddy's wrestling
Yeah.
moves. There's some suplexes in there. There's a few body
It
slams.
also, I mean, like,
Keith gets a few good ones too.
Roddy Piper is he's the wrestler, but Keith David's just an actor. And it really puts on display how badass Keith David is, how big he is.
Yes.
Like, it's totally believable that he takes on this professional wrestler guy.
Well, in this scene, they took 3 weeks to rehearse.
That makes sense. Yeah.
They were only going to be, it was going to be a 20-second shot until like Piper and Keith David show up with like this whole choreographed thing, and they left it all in.
Well, that's what I was saying before, is it felt like they spent so much time on this choreography of this scene and practicing this scene, which is why it runs so long and why there's so little fisticuffs throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says a lot about John Carpenter as a low budget filmmaker, which he mostly was, like independent filmmaker, which he mostly was. And he was very good about going, well, here's a visual that I can make a shitload out of.
Yeah.
So if it was going to happen, he was going to capture all of it. It's sort of like that new action movie on Netflix, Havoc. It's the opposite of that.
Is that the Tom Hardy one?
It's like, yeah. Which, our friend Tracy does not like Havoc. Havoc for me was just like an okay experience. But it didn't have like the way Carpenter captures this fight scene in this movie. He's like getting every punch, everything. He doesn't need to shake the camera. It doesn't need frenetic editing. He's just capturing two dudes beating the fuck out of each other.
Would you guys say that this is is this Carpenter at his height? Like prowess?
I think they live as Carpenter at his height. Yeah.
Yeah. It really was just like, yeah. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Escape from New York is right around this time. And, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a great line.
I'm gonna like this. Don't expect, for people who are friends with on Facebook, like Cheryl and Todd, expect that to be my status update at some point.
Life's a bitch and she's back in heat.
Yeah.
So I want to. It's getting kind of late. I want to get us through the narrative here. So
so he gives him the glasses. Now he can see everything too, and he's just as shocked. These two walk the streets, all beat up. They decide to hole up for the night, and they're basically going to say, "We're going to find the people who made these glasses. We're going to try to figure this out." And they basically find their old friend Gilbert, the guy from the shanty town, and realize that he's like one of the head honchos there. And this
scene, by the way, this character actor who's playing Gilbert has one of my favorite line readings of all time.
Yeah,
he like everybody's freaking out. What are we gonna do? And he says, "We're gonna bide our time."
Yeah.
And I just love the way he does. Like, he has his hand and he bide our time, but he doesn't close his mouth. I don't know. It's just
this guy who I've seen in so many movies. I know we're running late. I'll make it quick. I first saw this guy. It became known to me as the kind of the reporter who was covering Richard Pryor in Brewster's Millions.
Yes.
And he has this incredible broadcaster voice that I thought he was putting on for that film. And then I saw him in other things. I'm like, no, that's just how he talks.
That's how he talks. Yeah. And then they get raided, right?
They get raided. And in the meantime, also, like, Holly reappears. Like, she's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know that you were trying to open my eyes."
If I have a problem with the movie, I have a problem with how quickly Nada accepts her as his romantic other.
Yes.
Yeah.
and will do anything for her because it doesn't make sense because she's
Well, but
creepy.
actually, honestly, it's like I'd be curious to see what was happening in Carpenter's personal life at the time, because there's very much like the vase over the head and out the window, and he keeps like accepting her back in, and she keeps screwing him over every single time. Like
Right.
during this film.
Yes.
So I don't know
Well,
what was
and he
happening with him.
slows down at this point too. Like he like, I gotta go talk to her, and then like she's just like, so is it okay if, and then the wall explodes?
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah,
you
just
know?
when it's
Yeah, like they're just about to get like kind of intimate, and oh nope, the wall
Whoop,
explodes.
nope. 'Cause that's how
And
and
that
then
happened.
there's a long chase
yes, and they
Yep.
through
go into
office buildings and
this
whatnot.
kind of like trapped alleyway, no way out, and uh Frank has one of these watches, and these are the watches that the aliens are using. And
Yeah.
so he's like, he breaks it and it opens a portal and they jump in it. And it turns out they go into some kind of like sub basement alleyway thing. And they're in this tunnel that clearly leads to other places. And what they find out is that there is the elite of America having a little meeting, and they're basically like the head guy. Oh, and they don't wear the glasses after this because now they have contacts that do the same thing.
I missed that part. I stepped out of the room and then I came back and I was like, wait, they're not using the glasses anymore.
No,
Right.
it was back in the
When they
in the
first
meeting.
get into the resistance.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was. Okay, got it.
They meet up with the resistance and they're like, oh, get rid of those little glasses, try these contacts. And they like try to fake putting in glasses. It's really cheesy. So anyway, they're down there, and while
So
they're
Jeff covers
with
it
the
there.
elite of America, so there's like one alien dude, and he's basically saying, hey, by 2025 we're gonna have this whole place to ourselves. And I thought that was a little on the nose.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's weird. That's super weird. So then after they go to this weird political rally,
So they meet up with
like
the
because
guy.
politicians, even though they've already been elected in the They Live world, have rallies. Why would you
Yeah.
have a rally? There's
Right.
no
You've already
reason
won,
to.
right?
You've already
Right.
won.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. Right. And it's like, it's prescient. It's prescient.
Yes, you're
God.
right. It is
So
prescient.
they meet back up with one of the transient guys that was in the shanty town, and now he's wearing like a tux, and he's like, boys, who knew you were part of the gang? Well, welcome. I'm going to show you around. And he's like going to give them the grand tour behind the scenes of Alien HQ.
I thought you boys understood.
Yeah. And so they basically are like, yeah, show us everything. And so he gives them the grand tour, and it turns out that the radio signal is in the house.
Yeah, and then
from inside the house.
Like from here, like the movie, this like at this point, I think we're at about an hour and 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah,
and then it just quickly is them going up to there's so much gunfire, so much death. They go up to
like,
the roof.
Total 80s style too, with like we're just gonna spray the area with bullets and people fall down.
Well, there was one of the resistance guys that gets shot, and I'm like, he did the thing that was very common in 80s. He had like the little MAC-10 submachine gun, and he's pointing it at the ground. The cops are maybe 15 feet away, and it's like, and like you're shooting at the ground. Like, raise the gun, we might have a battle. And then, of course, one of the cops turns and goes, pop,
Yeah.
and he's down.
So this chase happens, and this is
right. And they
later in
encounter
the chase,
Holly again, because this is, of course, she's established that she works there at the station. So they encounter her again, and he's like, come with us.
Yeah.
And while they're like, running away and everything, they're trying to make it to the roof because that's where the signal is coming from.
They want to shut it off.
Right. And they're like,
Oh.
we're gonna go destroy it.
And they do establish, of course, in the underground scene that there is a transporter to other planets in the cable television office.
Yes.
Yes. And they do show
transport
that. They show people being like beamed.
That's why
to
your
other
cable bill's
places.
$125, by the way.
And that
Yeah.
ultimately is the moment that freaks out Nada so much that he goes on a murder spree.
Right.
Right. Like
Um,
it's at this point that he's like, this has got to be stopped. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
as they get up to the roof, or just before they get to the roof, like
in the
Nada is-
stairwell.
yeah, they're he's like a few steps ahead, and there's a really quick blink if you miss it scene where Holly shoots Frank.
Yeah, she puts
I was-
her gun right up to his head, and then
And
it cuts.
And it's a,
And it
you hear
cuts.
a blast,
And
and
you're
it's
like,
the darkest moment in the movie.
And
It
I completely, like, I was watching this entire movie and I'm like, oh, it's a typical 80s thing. And I sitting here by myself watching this movie, I go, oh,
yeah,
I just,
Yeah,
yeah,
I-
it
because
got
it's
me
like,
every
oh.
time.
yeah,
Like Frank is the guy who's the one guy, even including Nada, who should survive this. fucking
Yeah.
thing.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he gets shot in the head.
Even
so
even
fast.
instead of Nada, if Frank had survived and like taken up the mission or something like that. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. But I mean, just that he's dispatched with so quickly with a cut. You just see the gun put to the head and then a cut and a sound.
Yeah, and
And
you're
I-
just yeah.
Powerful decision, I think.
Right. So of course he doesn't realize this has happened, but Nada gets to the top. He sees the thing, and Holly comes up behind him, says something. He turns around. He realizes, oh shit, she's been working for the overlords this whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and he turns around and decides that first he shoots her, and then he turns around and he's gonna shoot the laser, and there's
And he
police
does.
helicopters, and he shoots
the
it.
laser
Yep,
and
and it blows up.
It blows up, and then the helicopter guys shoot Nada.
Yeah,
So this is a movie where our hero does not live.
he does
And what's
not
his
live.
what's his last act?
He
before
gives
he
him the
died?
finger.
Sorry about that.
It's so great. It's such a great like death exit of a character that he just, and it's not even, he doesn't do a strong finger. It's like weak.
It's kind of like a weak.
I'm dying. Here's my weak finger.
Yeah.
And
It's like when you see those pictures of like a baby and like they're like just randomly their fingers pop.
yeah, it's so delightful. All right.
Yeah.
So
And Jeff points out, yeah, well, that's 1980. In the 1980s, they had those infinite clips, you know.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Well,
We're
and
not
just
gonna
like
worry
the
about it.
spray of bullets that are just so cheesy,
Yeah.
beyond cheesy, but delightfully cheesy. Like
Well,
so
And
good.
no blood whatsoever.
No.
No
Except
blood,
during the
no,
fight.
which is fine.
Yeah,
But
And then
before
we have like an epilogue.
Oh, yeah.
before
really?
we do the epilogue, we'll do the epilogue and final thoughts. But I wanted to show you the Anderson family reenactment.
Yes.
Which is a montage of Nada's wisdoms throughout the
Yes.
film. Here you go.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo. Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo. I don't like this one bit. Not one bit. Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo. I deliver a hard day's work for the money. I just want the chance. It'll come. I believe in America. Everybody's got their own hard times these days. Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo. White lines in the middle of the road. That's the worst place to drive. Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
You ain't the first son of a bitch to wake up out of their dream.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
Brother, life's a bitch. She's back in heat.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
You know, You look like your head fell in the cheese dip back in 1957.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
Put on the glasses. Put them on.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
Well, when you get some kind of master plan, you let me know, huh?
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
I have come here for 2 reasons. To chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
There you go.
That was one of the best.
That I'm telling you, like, it's so good. It's so bad it's good. It's just
What was the hey Todd? What was the one that we did with John? The movie I think we did it with John Keating, where it was a Japanese monster, like kaiju battle movie, and there's a scene in the film where there's this lounge singer who, in the midst of her song, where she pauses for a moment and she coughs a little bit. Do you remember? You remember this one? And they leave it in. They leave it in the cut.
Yeah, vaguely.
And Hillary did it again for the Henderson family reenactment, and I'm just every time it just crosses my mind, I start laughing and start chuckling about it. It's got staying power.
That's the magic of Anderson family reenactments. So, Cheryl, tell us the end motif, and then we'll do final thoughts on They Live.
so. Now we have the aftermath, which is apparently the laser makes the aliens appear to regular folks who are now awake and can see them, and they're hideous. And they're like, you turn around and it's like, oh shit, Bob is an alien. Like, what's wrong with you? And I think the best one is when they're in the newscasters and they're like, Susan, you look like shit.
Yeah. My favorite of that, like, end montage of people waking up and seeing what things really are, is the one that bothers my wife so much, because
at the very end.
it has the gratuitous female nudity,
Yes.
which I almost feel like, his investors, this is an independent film, so his investors were like, you gotta have titty, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna go out.
It really did feel like that, didn't it? It's like, Karelko was a distributor on this internationally, so I could see them going like,
yeah, you need some titty, and he was like, oh, I'm not gonna put it in some random place. I'm gonna end the film with gratuitous female nudity and a guy full makeup.
You just see her.
He has like
riding this guy.
Yeah, and he has like body
and
paint and then mask.
And I do have to say, it's like the makeup of these alien creatures was great for 1988. I mean, I thought it's like, it is B movie level, but it was fantastic.
It was, and the last line of the film, the last line in the movie is, "What's wrong, baby?"
Yeah. Oh, and Jeff Luch nailed the movie, by the way. It's Battle of the Gargantuas, I think, was the film. He just said, "Is that Gargantua?" And I think it was like Battle of the Gargantuas.
Yes. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll go around the table. I'm going to start with Cheryl. Final thoughts on this particular movie, They Live. Why should people watch it now?
I can't think of a whole lot of a better representation of, just both the people being asleep and kind of not interacting with the world, or just kind of like, taking that back seat to what's going on in the world, and they're not choosing, that's the worst place to drive. right? Like
Yeah,
that's
the
me,
middle of the
like
road.
the real, like you're either on the right side or the wrong side of the street. And I can't think of a better film that brings that home for then and now, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a always perpetually great film. The subliminal text of consumerism is there, uh government oversight, elitism versus the, the poor. It's got so many layers to
It
this.
really does. I totally agree. Mark,
I,
you're fine.
I couldn't agree more with all of that, and I do have to say that I feel like 2025 is, with the technological advancement that we have had since then, that the message in 1988, the message was you still had a chance of stopping it because there was one spot, where you could go
Yeah.
blow up that transmitter. And now that's not possible. There's, with the, that message is now being transmitted. They have convinced us to carry these with us all the time, so it's like it is constantly, you're always on. Like in 1988, you could disconnect very easily. You turn the TV off and take the phone off the hook and you're done. That's
Yeah,
so
that's a
so I
really
do
good,
think I just want to say very quickly too that the idea of you have to pick a lane, and it's that there's a lot of people who haven't, and I think we're all collectively paying the price for that.
well, I mean, I agree with that on a level, but I also think that all those people you think didn't pick a lane did. And
Well, yeah.
And I think maybe that's the problem. I'm a conspiracy theorist about the last election. I don't think it was real. I think it was hacked. But if it wasn't, and even if it was, the numbers of people who are pro aliens and they live are upsettingly real. And yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you both on what this movie is now. And
It's more relevant now than I think it was in 1988.
It is, but
I
it's
do
all.
think so too.
I totally agree, and I also think, like, in the most cynical way that I can possibly think, that it's also unfortunate that the time has passed to put on the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me about they live in our current time.
And I own a little store, right? I have a little quilt shop here in Paducah, Kentucky, and like the whole feeling of the consumerism and the, like, my desire to get people to buy something so that I make a living, it is at odds with the messaging in this movie, which is, like telling people to go out there and buy more, and it's like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
but it's Cheryl, I totally get what you're saying, but I just want to say in your defense, like, what you're doing, you're a mom and pop establishment.
Yes.
You're an old school business. This is a business that could exist in Deadwood if you watch that.
Well,
show.
I feel like you're the newsstand guy in the movie.
I am the newsstand guy.
So
There's
you're
nothing-
doing, and you're just trying to make your way.
You're just trying to make your way in the most honest way possible. And quilts is a great way to do that. We all need quilts. I love quilts. I have many quilts. I will get more quilts. There's a store in Simi Valley, and you should reach out to them, I think, to sell your quilts.
There you go.
The name of the store here is Quilty Pleasures. So
ooh, that's good.
That's a good name. That's really good.
It's a great store.
Like
they have great quilts. I'm 100% behind it. Let's move on to our final segments. It's sort of a lightning round thing.
Yeah.
This first segment is called Be Better, Be Best. Cheryl, Mark and I will both present titles to you of movies, and you will decide, and one of the other of us will also weigh in on whether it's so bad nobody should ever see it for any reason, or it's so bad it's absolutely awesome. I'll start. Well, I'm here, Mark. So I think this is your choice.
Yes.
Here's a photograph of my copy of Battle Beyond the Stars, which is Mark's.
And this is definitely, I think, my vote is a B best because it is so bad it's good. I saw this movie on television. Actually, I saw this as an NBC Sunday night film, and
wow,
you know, it's just bonkers because I mean it was a huge television actor cast. You know, Richard Thomas was still kind of, you know, it was after the Waltons had ended, but not long after the Waltons had ended, so he had some name value to put him in a film on television at that point. But you know, he flies around in a female reproductive system, and there's no picture. I don't know the ship on the cover of that DVD. You can kind of see it if it is. No, it's not really. It's not really. It's behind the logo. Yeah, it's behind the logo. And it's just so goofy weird where it's like, oh my God, we need to blow stuff up. And, you know, the camera work is terrible. The acting is terrible. And I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of delightful. Cheryl, what's your judgment? Be bad, be best.
I think that only that kind of thing can be best. Like it's like it looks bananas. I've never seen it, and it's got all the potential.
Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime right now for free, I think.
Oh gosh!
Well, for free.
Totally worth the watch. You won't.
Okay.
When you're done, you won't be mad that you did it.
I remember, and this is when I think that, you know, my lifelong fascination with bourbon and whiskey started, is that George Peppard plays a character in this movie that this movie takes place far out in the galaxy somewhere else, but he's clearly from Earth. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his spaceship has a Confederate flag on the side of it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay. So he's basically playing a character that's like a trucker, but he has like a whiskey dispenser on his belt, which I'm just kind of like, you know, as a little kid, I was like, what's that? You know? So, anyway,
why is he so dependent
on we're pro bourbon?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's at one point there's characters where there's these two characters that are from a planet, for whatever their biology, they radiate a tremendous amount of heat, and if a human touches them, they'll burn their hand. So there is a scene where they're cooking hot dogs by holding them over the aliens, which are down there in the middle at the bottom of the picture. So
yeah, it's a great one. Here's my title. I went with all John Carpenter movies for
good one
segments. So here's my Be Bad or Be Best. Escape from LA, the sequel to Escape from New York. Very divisive film.
Yeah,
super divisive.
When John Carpenter was asked about it on a panel discussion, like some rando or a reporter or whatever said, what happened with Escape from LA? What happened? And John Carpenter said, fuck you. So Cheryl, what's your take on Escape from LA?
Yeah, I think this is one of those that jumped the shark with, you know, the whole surfing bit.
Surfing the tsunami? Yeah, but is that so bad you shouldn't watch it, or it's so bad it's hilarious?
You know, I haven't seen it. We did just watch Escape from New York again last night because we were so into the John Carpenter thing. So that's a tough one. Maybe
It's
it's so
hard.
bad you have to watch it at least once. I will probably give it a try.
So
I-
it's sort of like a hesitant be best from you.
yeah,
Mark?
yeah.
Mark?
My husband did explain the plot, and it
It didn't help.
did not help.
This
It doesn't
movie,
have a lot
okay,
going in its
if
favor.
you assume if the criteria is be bad is a movie that's so bad you shouldn't bother, I think this squeaks into the be best that it's so bad because it's like it's not good, just flat full stop.
No, it's
Not a good
so
movie.
over the top bad.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is like Escape from New York meets the direction and campiness of the Batman 1966 TV series, but with like a major budget behind it. It's
Right.
like it's just so fucking all over the road. You're just like, I don't know what I'm watching at all. This character says it's Snake Plissken. It's I mean, the first one was dark and it was serious and it was
Yeah.
more and it was political commentary like this, like They Live, you know.
Yes.
But it was also, I mean, the original is also ridiculous on a lot of levels.
But yes, of course, yes. But
Yeah.
So
But,
this is the late 90s version of an early 80s movie.
well,
Uh,
let me put it this way. I would pick this movie over Demolition Man.
There,
Which I-
really? You would pick it over
What?
Demolition?
Yeah, I would.
Oh,
That's
gosh, I have
really
a love
inter-
in
that's
my
it.
heart
I
for
like-
that movie.
I watched Demolition Man multiple times and over the years, and I watched it again recently, and I'm just like, okay, I won't say I'll pick it over, but I'll say it's a tie. It's a tie.
What?
Yeah.
I get you. I get
Wow.
that. For
So
me,
I,
it's a-
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I, it's like there's a lot of stuff I love about Demolition Man. Not
Yeah,
the least of which is one of the actors I know from Demolition Man. Is a guy named Troy Evans who's very cool. He's an older guy, but most recently on the Bosch TV series on Amazon Prime. But
no,
it's really
I love Demolition Man. Demolition Man is also a B best for me, but I would go B best for Escape from LA. And I'll be honest, like when I saw it at the Mayan Chinese Theater on opening weekend,
Wow.
and I thought it was absolute garbage. And then
Escape
when I
from LA.
watched it, Escape from LA,
Yeah.
when I watched it again on video, I was like, oh, no, I get it. I get what John Carpenter was doing. He was just spending a studio's money making the dumbest thing he could. And, there aren't a lot of moments in movies where Peter Fonda surfs tsunami.
I also, like you said, I feel like this was John Carpenter with a studio budget who didn't say no to any note he got.
Yeah, I also
Yeah.
felt like it was not
Fine.
just John Carpenter making this movie.
Yeah.
It was John Carpenter's 14-year-old inner child saying, "We're gonna make this."
Saying we have how much money?
Yeah,
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's kind of delightful in a lot of ways.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do when bad films happen to good actors. Only because I'm very near my own. I'm gonna start with mine, which is the remake of John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. I don't think this is a bad movie that happened to good actors. I think this is a bad movie that happened to John Carpenter. It's not the worst thing you've ever seen, but it like all the teeth. You guys know Assault on Precinct 13? All the
I
teeth.
haven't seen either one.
Oh,
so-
okay. So you
Yeah.
have to watch the original. It's great. It holds a candle to any George Romero zombie movie in a lot of ways. But also like its opening sequences are so uncompromising. You watch children get murdered, so you know how bad these people are.
Right.
And then it's just a siege on a building, which is why it has that Romero quality. It's like zombies descending on a building. But then also it has all these great like racial thematic elements with the lead characters, and because it's a black guy who's the sheriff, and it's a white guy who's the convict who's in jail under his watch, and they have to come together. I think that like flipping of races is really kind of cool.
That's cool.
And just overall, I think it's a really good thriller, and this one really is not, right down to like sequences where you're like, that doesn't make any sense. They all just, they were standing in a circle around people, and they all shot at the people
Right.
in the middle of the circle, and no one in the outer circle gets shot.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And as much as I like Ethan Hawke these days, because he makes interesting choices, this is maybe early in the Ethan Hawke renaissance, but I don't know. I don't like it. Did you guys see it?
What's that?
Have you seen have you seen either of them?
Which I missed some of my feed cut out.
Assault on Precinct
I saw the
13.
original. I haven't seen the remake. I've seen the original, but yeah.
All right. And Cheryl, you have your opinions.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. This was going to be part of, when my husband and I, we watched, They Live Again, and then we watched, Escape from New York. We thought he said to me, "Have you seen, these other ones?" And I said, "No." And we agreed that we need to make like, a run through of the John Carpenter catalog. Like that's gonna be
That's where I landed at the end of They Live tonight. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I just got to start at the beginning and watch them all again.
I think that's kind of what I would like to do, is to start with his like first film and like just go through in chronological order. And
Yeah.
but my husband does like this movie, and he's recommended it to me. So
But has he seen the remake?
I have not seen the remake.
But has your husband?
I think he has. He did tell me that there was, a new one, because what we had said was we were surprised no one had made anything, a sequel or anything to They Live. And so I guess I'm surprised that of all of his catalog that gets remade versus
well, it's an action movie and not a horror movie, so it makes sense. All right. Mark's film that happened to a good actor is
High Spirits.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh god.
This is the only movie I ever walked out of.
You walked out of it? Like
yes,
how old? This came out when we were kids.
What year is it?
I'm not sure the year, but it's like
I'm gonna look it up real quick. But yeah, I just have to say, it's like I watched. Let's see. I can tell you. Let's see. This movie was 1988, also.
Wow.
And
year.
I was just a year out of high school, and so I was in community college, and I remember going over there and saying, "Oh, it's like after class, I'm going to watch this movie. I'm not going to run home, because if I have to run home, I'm going to have to work, and I don't want to do that." So my parents own their own business, so I'm like, "Oh, I'm studying," and then I go to the movies, and so I was doubly pissed, because it's like, oh, it's the Police Academy guy and fucking pardon my language, Peter O'Toole. And Daryl Hannah, from when did her
Flash?
Flash 1984.
Was this after Legal Eagles or before?
Let's see. I will tell you, because I have
probably around that time.
Legal Eagles was 2 years before.
Okay.
And Splash was
84.
8 years or 4 4 years earlier. So yeah, anyway, the movie just sucks on ice. I've never seen the entire thing. and it was like just 20 minutes of just, you know, you're sitting in the theater and you're like, gonna let.
So who do you think this movie,
And
like,
there weren't any of these to do anything with. Like,
of the cast involved, who do you think is the most offended? Like, is it Peter O'Toole, Steve Guttenberg?
I don't. You know, honestly, I don't blame any of them. It's writing and direction.
No. It's not about blame. It's about like it happened to them. So whose career? Like Peter O'Toole was also in Phantoms. So like
I'd have to say that if this knocked the legs out from under anybody, it would have been Guttenberg. Because didn't Daryl Hannah, Wall Street, I think, was the year earlier. So she, you know, this came and went.
This was on the backslide for her.
But I think it's like a backslide movie for all three of them.
Yeah.
Well, Peter O'Toole, though, was kind of getting close to being wrapped up anyway, right? Career-wise, like he was just gonna.
Oh yeah, he was. I mean, actually, like he lasted.
Liam Neeson was in it. Oh my god, I was just
he lasted a lot longer than I would have expected. Peter O'Toole, because he continued to do roles for another almost 15 years after this. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. I didn't realize
that. Yeah, it's interesting what being a great actor will get you, even if you're like really drunk all the time. All right, let's wrap this thing up on a positive note.
Yes.
This is called the Boost, this segment, and Mark and I are gonna boost titles of movies. And Cheryl, if you come up with one while we're doing this, please let us know.
Sure.
And we'll boost that as well. We're just talking about movies we think maybe people should watch. Mark has, I'm getting there. It is the Philadelphia Experiment.
Yes, the John Carpenter science fiction film. And, you know, Movie Hole, of course, I think is exactly right. It's one of the best science fiction films of the 80s.
He wrote it? John Carpenter wrote this?
I believe he did. Let me double check that.
I didn't know that Carpenter was involved in this. That's great.
This, yes, was story by. Wait a minute. I thought Carpenter was. I mean, I'm wrong. I thought this was one of his.
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel it feels like a Carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's why I thought it was, but no, apparently he had nothing to do with it. So scrapping that part, I will just say that this is it's based on kind of like an urban legend about a naval experiment in the 40s that dealt with radar and visibility for World War II and all this kind of stuff. And somebody developed it into this story. And there's just, you know, Michael Paré had gone from television, like The Greatest American Hero, where he was a high school punk, and, you know, and moved into doing this. And of course, Nancy Allen, I would argue, was the bigger star. Like, I don't think this didn't.
Oh, at the time, yeah,
I would think so. And you know, the upshot is that Paré is a soldier from the 40s who gets shot forward into the 1980s, and along with a crewmate of his when the experiment goes awry. And you know, it's just full of these really cheesy special effects and some overacting, but there's this really some great scenes where he's reacting, as you know, it's the fish out of water story, like most time travel where they travel to the future is. But there's you know, Paré and the actor that plays his little companion, his fellow crewmate. What is the guy's name? Anyway, I got the wrong page up here. So
Carpenter wrote an original draft of this.
Maybe that's where
it
was.
Yeah. And he said it was too much like the draft that he wrote was too much like The Fog. So that's why they went with a different direction. But he was the one who wrote the first draft of it.
That's interesting.
So, okay. Yeah, Bobby DeCicco, who is, you know, not a, you know, this was not an exceptional cast in terms of their notoriety at the time. Again, a lot of TV actors, but it's a solid science fiction story, and has some very cool special effects, especially where you see members of the crew are buried in the metal of the ship because
Yeah.
the structure of the ship changed. And I remember
It's
that.
been years since I've seen this movie,
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh.
really good.
There was a photograph of the, you know, somebody kind of half out of the deck, and in Starlog magazine in 1988 or 87 when they were
Oh
filming.
yeah.
And that's what got me to go see this originally. And so yeah, I'm going to give it a boost because it's science fiction of the era. It actually has the feel of a TV movie these days, but it was
Yeah.
theatrically released back then. And you know, it's like if you want some amazing helicopter footage of California wine country, it's in here. So,
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Michael Pare. I
Yeah.
always. Here's my boost. It's a John Carpenter movie. His first. It's called Dark Star,
Oh yeah.
which he co-wrote with Dan O'Bannon, who did Alien and all that stuff. This is a weird movie. It's G-rated. It's a sci-fi comedy, I would say. And I always loved it, but then I showed it to my son when he was little, like he was 6. It's G-rated, it's sci-fi. I was like, I'll show this to him. He thought, like, I've never seen a kid giggle so hard as he did watching Dark Star. So, and it made me so happy. And back then, Twitter was still Twitter.
Right.
And I just posted, my son
normal is the word you're looking for.
Yeah. Twitter was not fascist. So I posted my son, I just showed my son Dark Star for the first time, and he laughed so hard he cried, which is absolutely true. And somebody responded, your son's got good taste. And that somebody on Twitter was John Carpenter.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. I love it.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Do you guys
It's
like,
like,
I mean, do you like this movie?
Degrees of
I
separation.
do. Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it in forever. I want to go back to it because I actually, back in December, you know, I've known Rockney O'Bannon for a few years, and I just finally reconnected with him about potentially trying to work on something. And this, you know, this is a guy who is another one that's like sold 7, 8 television series in his time that made it out, and not counting the ones that he sold that didn't make it out.
Yeah.
And you know, it was kind of a meeting to see if there was any possibility of doing any kind of work together. And the upshot of it was he is attempting now, you know, even with his career and his representatives who are relatively highly placed in agency and representation land, can't close the circuit on stuff. So it's like, you know, I mean, it's like on the one hand, it was like reassuring because it's not just in my head, but then it was also depressing because here's a guy who has an incredible amount of stories to tell. And he's actually, one of the things he's working on is an official continuation of the Farscape storyline, but in a comic book form from a company called Boom Studios, which just made, you know, $670 some thousand on Kickstarter. And I'm just like, so, you know, studio people, there are people willing to give money directly to these projects that would be giving it to you if you would actually make them. But, you know, so what, you know, anyway, that's the angry nerd in me right there. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's all right. There's nothing wrong with it. I agree with all of your concepts there. I will say this has been great.
Yeah, I loved it.
Cheryl, where did people find your quilts? Where can we buy your stuff?
You can find me at Muppin, MUPPIN.com. And you can find me on all of the various platforms as Muppin, DOTCOM. So that's my username pretty much everywhere. and
Awesome.
and yeah, so come
Yeah,
take a look
buy
at the quilt.
Cheryl's quilts. What the fuck, you guys? Just buy some quilts.
And
Or buy the stuff to make them, or buy the stuff to make your cosplay.
Yeah. I just want to buy a quilt like right away and be wrapped in it. And feel
she has
cozy.
she has cool quilts. Like she made this quilt years ago. The two that I remember that really stand out. This was a while ago, I guess. One was a hand turning a key, and it was for
Yes.
an old Mustang that
Yeah.
Cheryl had. I don't know if you still have it. That was
Yep.
that's in my memory. And the
Yep.
other one is for the comic book fans that are familiar with Jack Kirby. He had this background called Kirby Crackle, which was little circles kind of random in the background, and she did a quilt with that on it. It was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I have a
I've
whole
always thought-
series of Kirby Crackle quilts that are basically Kirby Crackle blown up big. So
Yeah, it's really fantastic.
Mark, is there anything people should look for that you're doing? Is there...
Well, you should look forward to, and this is something that I actually need to talk to both of you about offline, is that we're working on a show with Cheryl. This is the thing that I messaged you about, Todd, about our experiences at Diamond Comics, working with our wonderful customers and colleagues, and it will be told from the perspective of an erstwhile customer service technical support representative who's only trying to do the best for the customers and is thwarted at nearly every turn. So we will, by the management and staff around us, so but yeah, we're looking to do that as another comedy improv audio series that would be starting really very soon, as long as if we can get everybody in line. And Todd, you are somebody that I immediately thought of that would be awesome in this endeavor. We'll get into more details.
Yeah. I'm ready.
I was alluding to earlier is that Diamond has the unique distinction of being a distributor that the end consumer knows, so would often, like, people who are buying their individual comics and stuff like that, but would occasionally call in because that was the only place they could call and vent their frustration about the storyline or whatever.
Right.
Nothing that anybody there could do, but you had to take the call anyway. So it was just, and it was downhill from there in many cases. So,
yes.
but with incredibly humorous results most of the time.
Yeah, it sounds kind of hilarious. Thank you guys both so much for doing the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
For
having us. Yes. Cool.
I'm gonna wrap it up now. Yeah. You don't have to leave. We can talk in the green room after. But everybody else, we love you. Thanks for listening, watching, and They Live is one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah, and incredibly relevant, more relevant than you would think.
Exactly.